senior researcher at Sussex and Oxford Universities and social anthropologist Dr. Amber Huff. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with Abdullah Öcalan's situation. Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan has been held in isolation in prison for 23 years now, and he has been denied visits from his family and lawyers. There are now concerns about Öcalan's health and whereabouts. Can you comment on this treatment first of all?
Sure, yes. I think that the continued imprisonment of Abdullah Öcalan is appalling. It's a violation of his basic human rights. It's internationally illegal. And I think considering concerns that have been raised about his health and his treatment at the hands of the Turkish state, as well as his whereabouts, like you point out, it's really crucial that his lawyers and family be given, at the least immediate access and be allowed to evaluate his condition and his treatment and make sure that he's okay.
Thank you. What is the importance of freedom of Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan and delisting the PKK from forbidden organizations list? Most of the people are saying keeping the PKK in forbidden organizations list and keeping Mr. Abdullah Öcalan under isolation is two faces of the same problem. How would you going to evaluate that?
I agree with the statement that the continuing imprisonment of Öcalan and the continuation of keeping the Kurdistan Workers' Party on international lists of terrorist organizations are two sides of the same coin. I think that these are uh, they're both atrocious and not right, but they're also related in cause. Um, I think that demanding freedom for Öcalan and demanding the delisting of the Kurdistan Workers' Party from the international terror lists are two crucial steps, not only to addressing the Kurdish question, but also to identify broader pathways to peace in the Middle Eastern region. This is because to do these things would send a very strong message, not only to Erdogan and other people within the region, but also to the international community that we're really willing to do what it takes to acknowledge the legitimacy of Kurdish claims to justice on an individual level in the case of Öcalan, but also in terms of the collective violence that Kurdish people and their neighbors have experienced in the past.
So can we say Mr. Abdullah Öcalan is a key for peace and sustainability in the region, as well as delisting the PKK will open the doors for peace process and negotiations in the region. How would you comment on that?
I think that's absolutely true. So, I mean, despite what the Turkish state says about Öcalan, he continues to be a powerful voice and a symbol, which is even more important for dialogue and peaceful resolutions to the Kurdish question. Not only that, but his philosophy, his ideology is quite powerful internationally. It's forming the basis of kind of a new international politics for thinking about how to develop emancipatory change along these pillars of democratic confederalism. It's been very influential for social movements around the world. So I think freedom for Öcalan would be not only a powerful step for the Kurdish question, but would also be a powerful step toward a broader, um, more powerful international movement for peace, for emancipation, and for liberation.
Thank you. What was the target by taking leader Öcalan as a hostage with the February 15 international conspiracy 23 years ago?
I think that the main target of the arrest and political imprisonment of Öcalan wasn't really about Öcalan, but I think it was meant to deal a blow to the powerful Kurdish movement for liberation. I think that the Turkish state, in particular, thought that if they could put Öcalan behind bars, they could also put people's hope behind bars, that they could destroy people's hope and people's willingness to build a better future. But fortunately, I think this was not the case, as we can see in the way that people continue to fight and continue to work to build a better future together.
This conspiracy has also driven the Kurdish issue to an insoluble state. How do you evaluate the isolation on Öcalan, the approach of the EU, CPT, and the ECHR as well?
I think that despite positive European court decisions in recent years, the official position of the leadership of governments like the UK and coalitions like the EU remains complicity. Um, and I think that they feign a convenient ignorance on the detailed politics of the situation for a lot of reasons. But I think a main reason is so that the flow of arms and the flow of money can continue between Turkey and the UK and the EU. I think that this complicity is the primary factor that's responsible for Öcalan's continuing imprisonment. And I think that if international governments were not complicit with this, and if the Kurdistan Workers' Party were delisted as it should be from the terrorist lists, that the escalation of Turkey's aggressions in Rojava and Bashur would not be possible. Um, Öcalan's freedom would be necessary, and a lot of other changes would be necessary. I think that to achieve this, we have to achieve a changed outlook among the leadership of the international community. And I think that the way to do this is that people must continue to challenge the story that comes from the Turkish state, that is misleading, that takes advantage of people's ignorance around the world of the details of the situation. And I think people who do know what's going on and who are aware and have been involved in struggle for so long need to continue to raise awareness and put pressure on governments and use the media as well to inform members of the public more broadly so that we can really speak out and put pressure on these leaders where it needs to happen.
Thank you. Turkey is getting more and more repressive in its treatment of the Kurds, as you witnessed as well from Britain. This must have a bearing on how Western allies view the Kurds. What can we do to shame our governments into acting in favor of the values of human rights and justice that they claim to uphold?
I think what we need to do is we need to see ourselves and our advocacy as potentially more powerful than the politics that perpetuates violence. I think, like I was saying, that we need to continue to challenge the stories that are coming from the Turkish state. And we don't need to back down when it seems like maybe our leaders aren't listening or are brushing aside what we have to say. We need to insist that they listen, and we need to insist that we have a right to talk about these issues and open them up to the light, so that the public internationally can understand what's going on instead of having confusion due to maybe the dominance of the stories coming from the Turkish state in the media, for example, or the fact that their leaders might favor Turkey's position in these situations.
Thank you. Lastly, what is your expectation and message for Kurdish leader Öcalan and the Kurdish people as well?
Like I said before, despite what the Turkish state says, Öcalan continues to be a really powerful voice and a powerful symbol internationally for dialogue, for peace, for building a better world. And my message for the Kurdish people remains Biji Barkhodanajane.
Thank you, senior researcher at Sussex and Oxford University and social anthropologist Dr. Amber Huff. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for your valuable comments today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.